Good evening, everyone. My name is José Miquel Jornet. I'm an associate professor in electrical and computer engineering at Northeastern University. And today I'm actually really happy to be with a bunch of colleagues in a very interesting panel, which it's technical, but not in the way you expect. We're going to be talking about how we can nurture younger generation electrical and computer engineers to join, a career that hopefully is long-lasting and impactful in these very exciting areas of research that you have seen today. And to do that, I'm not going to do this by myself. I mean, those who know me, you know that I could spend probably a few more hours talking, even if it's Friday night. Probably we should do that with a beer. But instead of doing that, we're going to run this as a panel. And for that, what I would like to do next is introduce each one of our panelists. I'll be here, but we have four panelists joining us. And first, I will ask each one of them, I'll just say a couple of words, but I will ask each one of them to, in a couple of minutes, summarize their career path, where they are today, where did they start, and what happened in between. I know that everyone shared a very beautiful biography and this and that, but you know what? More than me reading or saying it, let's have the actual protagonist of this share them. So I would like to start first with Eirini Eleni Tesiropoulou at the University of New Mexico. Good evening, Eirini. How are you?
Hi, Josep. I'm doing
Good
well.
to see you again. How is everything going?
Surviving.
Good. And look, I really think that Zanyu and the organizing team from this Buffalo Day deserve us some drinks or dinners for being here on a Friday night. But thank you very much for being here. How about you, in a couple of minutes, tell us, let us know a little bit where you are, where you started. How did you end up here?
Sure. First of all, thank you guys for the kind invitation. I mean, it's very nice to see some good friends here and good collaborators. So let me try to pronounce the name first of all. So my name is Eirini Eleni Tesiropoulou, and I am an assistant professor, hopefully not for long, at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of New Mexico. And this is my 6th year here. And if you didn't get the joke, I'm going up for tenure. So what is my path? My path, I don't know, it's not very common. So I have all my studies from Greece, from National Technical University of Athens. It's the top engineering school in Greece. So I started my diploma. It's 5-year studies back then in 2003. Graduated in 2008, then I continued with my MBA in parallel with my PhD. My PhD was mainly focused on resource management in wireless networks, and I have never thought of leaving Greece. I liked the lab that I was working, I liked the university, it was very research intensive, and you may know that back then, sometime around 2016, the economy of Greece crashed. So it was the time to find a solution for myself. So an academic path back in Greece back then was very vague, given the financial situation in the country. So I came to the States. My first stop was as a postdoc at University of Texas at Dallas, working with Mark Spong. He's mainly a controls person. And then the project that I was working on was collaborative, so with University of Maryland. So that's how I moved to University of Maryland. I stayed there for 1 year as a postdoc, working with John Barras, and then I applied all over the States. And I wasn't very well aware about what's going on in the States. So here I am at the University of New Mexico.
Okay, well, I mean, I have plenty of questions, but I'll save them for the actual discussions. Thank you very much. Our second panelist today, Professor Jennifer Zirnheld. Jennifer, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you. Good.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been saving my voice all week to be part of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead. Tell us, share your story with all our people here.
So my path is I guess traditional and non-traditional. It's traditional in the sense that, I was excelled in math and science from a fairly young age. And when it got to the time to go to college, there was, more traditional paths. You could go into engineering, you could go into medicine, traditional math and science fields. I started college basically because my parents had encouraged me to attend college. They felt that there was not much you could do without a college education. And I'm grateful for that. I look at how much technology is around us and know that just to, be technically literate in today's day and age, you certainly need a background. So my intention was to get a bachelor's and go and join the workforce. Never thought about an advanced degree at all. And when I started in engineering, I didn't really like engineering. I was doing okay in the subjects, but I was having a hard time understanding why those calculus problems, those integrations, like what could you do with them? Sort of the application, the engineering part of it. But I kept thinking as you took more and more classes, you kind of figure it out as you went along. It wasn't until I got involved in undergraduate research that really changed my path. And I thought about, an advanced degree, a master's, and then eventually a PhD. But it was definitely research and undergraduate research that sort of sparked my curiosity and looking at being able to solve really interesting problems that fueled my path forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for sharing the story. And again, I have plenty of questions, but we'll get back to that soon. I would like now to introduce our third panelist, Lorenzo Bertizzolo, currently at Apple. Lorenzo, how are you?
Hi, Joseph. I'm very well. How are you?
Good, good. I guess that you're warmer than what we are either in Boston or in Buffalo.
Yeah. I can benefit from warmth and sun because it's still daylight time here. Good. So let me introduce myself a little bit. First of all, I want to thank you as a moderator and Professor Guan to organize this day. It's a true honor to be called colleague by you in public. So I have witnesses, and to be sharing the panel with other professors and former, let's say, lab mate of mine, Biang, which is following. And my name is Lorenzo, and as Professor Joseph said, I work at Apple right now, where I'm generally in the domain of wireless communications, because eventually that's what I became a little expert in by graduating from my PhD at Northeastern University. I graduated a couple of years ago, so I'm still pretty fresh in the industry. And while at Northeastern, I had a chance to intern in a couple of different companies and research labs. So we'll talk about that probably later. And eventually I made a choice, right? And the choice was industry, and the choice was the company I'm in. And it's sometimes you don't have a choice to make. Sometimes you have a choice to make. We'll talk about how to navigate those different circumstances later. But eventually that brought me to still be part of the wireless community from a different angle this time. So working on a product, working for the industry.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And indeed, we'll have questions. And our fourth panelist, Dr. Liyang Zhang at Google. Good evening. I don't think I've met you before, so you're the only one I don't know. But please go ahead, share with us a little bit your path before we get into the discussion.
Hello, everyone. So first I have to correct you, Professor Jonette. We did met. Okay. I recall that we met. At the gym in Buffalo.
Oh my God. Okay, that's probably why I try to forget. I try to forget bad memories, and usually gyms are not the best memories for me.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you, Professor Guan, for inviting me here. And it's I feel privileged to be a panelist sharing some of my experience. And I spent a couple of years in Buffalo before moving to Northeastern with my advisor, Professor Tommaso Madia. I still remember the old days when I had to dig my car out of the snow. Some of you probably did it this very morning. After I got my PhD degree from Northeastern University, I joined Google. When at that very time, I finally was convinced by myself that probably academia is not the best choice for myself. And if you are interested, we can maybe talk about it later. I've spent about 4 years here at Google. I'm working in the network infrastructure team. What I'm doing today is a little different from what I did when I was doing my PhD, but it's still I think the same level of it's the same level of interesting and challenging for me. So I think we can talk about it later if anyone is interested. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? To make sure that everyone sees how handsome and pretty we are, I'm going to stop sharing so people see our faces. And I'm going to start with one of the questions that I'm sure that many of the younger people who are on the call would like to know, which is like, it seems that some of you really know what they wanted to be from the beginning. Actually, many people maybe did not know what they wanted to be. Is there such a thing as too late to choose a career path? Again, we have some faculty here, we have some colleagues in industry. Some of you knew you wanted to be faculty, some of you didn't know we wanted to be faculty or wanted to go to industry. Is there such a thing as too late to pick a career path? What are your thoughts? Anyone? Please, not everyone at the same time.
Okay, I'll try to break the ice here.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess obviously the answer is no, it's not too late. But, you know, here in this equation, I won't put only academia and industry because, you know, each position in academia and each position in industry, depending on the different type of industry that you are going to, depending also on different ranking of universities that you are joining, it's quite different arena. So I guess it's never too late. And, you know, if you have a personal goal that you want to achieve, what makes you happy, what makes you satisfied, obviously with respecting always the colleagues around you and always remember the people that you have helped you to be at the point that you are. I think that it's never too late. And obviously, you know, failures and rejections will come. I guess all of us have experienced that. From being a PhD student all the way up to being a professor, I guess the rejections are more than the acceptances. So there will be difficult moments, but if you have a goal and a dream of what makes you happy and what makes you satisfied, I think that it's never too late. And I mean, I can say my example, I changed my whole life at the age of 29, which was a very well-established life. And, you know, I guess it's easier maybe when you are younger to make dramatic changes. And as you get older, maybe it gets more difficult because it's not only your job, there are other, you know, variables in the optimization. But yeah, I don't think that it's never late.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to add some personal thought on this?
Just for too late, do you mean when you're not that young? Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, again, so you know, I always forget to share my own story, but you know, I was the type of person that when I joined college, I had friends who they knew they wanted to do a PhD. I didn't know I wanted to do a PhD. Actually, I wasn't sure what a PhD was, right? And I said, okay, we'll do a master's because my friends were doing a master's. So I did my master's, and it was at that time that I realized I wanted to do a PhD. So fine. And let's be very honest, right? My advisor was very instrumental in me deciding to go for an academic position, because for him, it's like, that's the best thing that you can make out of your life, become a professor. And he showed us some good examples, and that was good. We also saw some ugly aspects. Maybe that's not that good. But, I made an educated decision, I would say relatively late. I had friends who from high school knew that they wanted to end up in academia. I said, how can you know that? So I don't know.
Yeah. Planning is important in my vision, but how far ahead can you plan something, right? That's a different question. And as far as too late or whether it's never too late, I think the world is full of examples where the proof is that it's never too late. We have, the richest man in the world was basically did not have a company until 10 years ago, and the president of the United States peaked his career at his late age. So I think this is a proof that it doesn't, if you peak at 80 years old, that's such a proof that it's never too late, right? And I think as long as the choice is timely, so I'll put more focus on, is it the right time for making that choice, right? Rather than, is it late for me or is it early for me, right? If the market, in case of industry or even academic market, is ready for your ideas, it's never too late.
Okay, good.
I think for me personally, it's kind of evolved as I've gone along, and I've kind of looked at it as, is the opportunity in front of me, potentially an area I want to explore, or is this something that I absolutely not, I'm closing that door, I don't want to go through it. But I tell students all the time, and myself, if you have an interest in something, explore it, and opportunity timing may say, oh, this is a good opportunity, a good timing for me to try and explore this further. Or you may say, no, this isn't. But I had no idea what a PhD was, or anything other than you kind of had to have a college degree to exist in life. So my path was definitely all about just keeping possibilities open.
Excellent. Anything to add, Li-Yang? If not, I have another question for you.
All right. I think I didn't unmute myself. Well, I can never say that it's too late to change, because I changed quite late. And it took me many years to realize that I may not possess some of the characteristics, the abilities to continue academic life. That's when I decided to go to the industry. So I guess it's never too late to change, but I think it doesn't mean you never have to time or change. For example, if you want to go to the industry now, it's probably not the best time now.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So I think people should always plan ahead, but keep your focus on, keep an eye on the opportunities. They are not always there.
Okay. Good points, everyone. I guess that one of the things that, as you were all talking, keeps coming to mind is, okay, well, in order to be able to choose an option, right, or commit to an option, you need to know what that option is, right? And for example, we try more and more to offer students these internships opportunities or co-ops opportunities. I myself never been into industry, right? I just know that people make more money than I, but that they can't get fired. So that's the only thing I know about the industry. Do you think that, first of all, did you explore these different options along your career? And more or less you will answer that. And do you think we are providing the younger generations all these opportunities? As a faculty, I like to think that I encourage my students to go into internships. I don't know. Maybe on the industry side, do you make it easy? And do you feel like it's okay if sometimes you take in people who are a little bit green just for them to get the experience? So, going a little bit back, so to pick an option, you need to know the option. Did you try different things before getting where you are? And now from the other side, are you helping people try different things from your perspective? Again, I leave it for you.
So maybe I can take this one. That's a very good question, Josep. So as scientists, we have to agree that knowledge is power, right? We cannot deny this fact. So when you're a student, where you're in a PhD student, I want to encourage the younger generations to not rely on their advisor, encouraging them to explore. Yeah, it has to come from you, like most things in life. And it's great if your advisor encourages you, but as Josep said, you know, the best outcome for the advisor is that you become the next brightest professor in academia. That's their number one desire, and they really wish you that. But you know, sometimes that might not happen. So it has to come from you to look for opportunities both in academia and in industry, right? Explore both paths and take a look at what's around. So the best advice I could possibly give to PhD students is, number one, go to conferences. No matter if you have a paper, no matter if, you know, is a conference that you even try to publish to, if you have a chance, if a conference is in your city or you can apply for a travel grant, don't necessarily use all your advisor's budget, but try to go to conferences, try to take a look at what is out there and what contribution you might make to academia at large. So that's number one, very important. And of course, the conference, you have papers too, you better go, right? And number two, try to spend some time in industry, right? The industry part is a little trickier in the sense that most companies do not expose exactly what they do, and it's harder to getting to know what a company core business or plans are.
And you're talking from Apple's perspective that you never know anything, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know things myself sometimes, Josep. Okay. So, in general, industry is something that until you're in it, you have not a complete overview of what the goals are. And internships is a great way to check it out, you know, without commitment, and then the company checks you out too. And if it's a good fit, you know, something will come out of it. And if it's not a good fit, it's good for you to realize that something is not a good fit, right? And then eventually you take a choice, right? As Liang said, there might be better moments than others, right? Both in industry and academia when positions open and universities hire. But ultimately, to wrap this up, right? Try to explore as much as you can. And I know it's hard because you have deadlines and papers to write, but eventually, you know, it's better to have a little bit more knowledge of what is waiting for you after you graduate and maybe spend 6 more months in school than graduate 6 months earlier and have no idea what is there for you.
Good advice. Thank you. Very good point. Anyone wants to add on that? Let me do what you all think. Let me add just one thing. I'm thinking of some of the messages I'm getting as we speak. Remember, we talk about industry, we talk about academia. We also have, you know, research labs. And I'm thinking of our colleagues at AFRL, right? And other national labs. So please do not, I'm not forgetting options, okay? Just looking at you, Elizabeth, just saying that. Anyone wants to add? Again, do we need to sample all the options before we choose? It's fine that we discover options later on. Any thoughts?
I was about to add what you said about the national labs, because I'm coming from a state that we have 3 national labs here, actually 3 federal and 1 national lab. So the first question is if we did something like that, and it's not only the internship, so I can reply that yes, I did an internship back in Greece, whatever internship means in Greece. I didn't really enjoy it, but then also I was tutoring students in order to enter the university. I mean, in Greece we have the national exam, so the exam is quite tough, and that's where I realized that my passion about teaching, because being a professor, it's not only research. You need to be able to stand in the class and survive also with students asking questions, coming in office hours, and etc., etc. So I think that the job of a professor is quite multi-branched. Now, regarding the internships, I can tell you what the strategy that I follow with my group is. I agree with what Lorenzo said, that the student needs to be self-motivated. So you cannot really find an internship for the student and open the door for the student. So what I do is that I motivate all of them in the duration of their PhD studies to try all the 3 types of internships within quotes, meaning industry, national lab, that we have the privilege of having several of them in our neighborhood, and also acting as TAs. And you know, usually the students, they react when they listen to the word TA, because indeed it has quite the job. But I think that it's a very good training process for them.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And that's another thing. Many times, you're right. The only opportunity at glancing what is to be an academic for our students beyond research, which is the teaching, it's TA. And we many times miss this opportunity. That you hit the spot there. I actually am going to, if you don't mind, take Jennifer and Liyang and put them on the spot. Jennifer, imagine you're very happy with your faculty career, but someone comes to you and says, we really like your research. We see a huge business opportunity. I'll give you X amount of money for you to live, at least, you know, for a while, your academic life, and, you know, establish this company. Would you do that? Do you think it makes sense, that type of, you know, maybe short time, maybe permanent, I don't know, transition from academia to industry? And then I'll ask you the reverse question to Liyang. So please.
So that's interesting, because I've always sort of looked at what we do as faculty as a little bit of running a startup, right? Mm-hmm. So we are in a sense head of human resources. We are in sense ahead of our mission and our product out the door in terms of knowledge and students. So I've always sort of thought that there was some entrepreneurial aspect that's not really talked about when you go into academia. Have I thought about it? I find that the academic job is a lot of rejection in terms of, you know, papers don't get accepted first try, grants don't often, you know, get always the highest scores, students don't always say, you know, you did a great job. So I find that academia has a lot of rejection. So sometimes I wonder if you went to the other side of industry, if it's a little less tough on the personality, so to speak. But I've never thought about it except to think that there's some parallels between what we do and sort of a startup type of company. I am going to add that I didn't have a lot of exposure to engineering or anything. So I do, when I mentor, I do encourage my students to try things out. Okay. Specifically either a TA or an internship, or even joining a lab for a short period of time, because yeah, that is how you figure out if you like it or not. You know, most internships are, a semester or 2 semesters. TA, your semester is by semester, and it really can give you that feel for, do you see yourself doing these type of activities or not? So as much as I would like my students to stay and research directly with me and work directly with me, I do push them to try their own things, but you can't teach enthusiasm and interest. So if they have an interest, that's a great match.
That's a very
good. I haven't thought about leaving, but I am always intrigued by the idea.
I really like many of the things you said. The analogy with when you run a lab, you're really running something like a startup company, or actually you run all the departments in your company, which is a full-time job. It sounds a lot. And yeah, rejection is something that we are mentoring our students to get used to it, because if not, you don't survive. But let me now take Liyang and put him on the other side. So Liyang, would you consider going back to academia, right? And having to deal with this rejection, having to deal with running everything for you, or not? You would, now that you've tasted the beauty of industry, that's what you want to be, or no? Maybe we have the wrong conception, and in industry you're also dealing with a lot of rejection. Tell us a little bit. What would we have to do to make you change back to academia, if you want to, or what's going on? Yeah.
Joseph, you didn't say anything about the money.
I know. I know. Well,
Okay, so the question is, what do you have to do to make me going to academia?
yes.
Actually, so I'm not sure, what you can offer, but I can think of something that, some other preconditions. So before that, I can share a story I heard from someone. It's not guaranteed to be true, but I heard that one of the colleagues here in Google spent a few years, here working here before he going back to start his PhD in which major? I think it's philosophy.
Wow.
So
okay.
the thing is, he found his true passion. He wants to explore philosophy, but he lacked the money because doing a philosophy PhD, you have to pay some a relatively high tuition. So I think from this story, I can think of two preconditions. One, I am sufficiently secure financially. Two, I have found my true passion, in academia. So under these two preconditions, I will, I think I will go back to academia. And I think this applies for everyone, in every direction. You have to find out what you truly want to do, and then you have to have some financial support on that. I'm not sure if I have answered your question.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just to connect some of the different thoughts from all of you. So first of all, of course, I like my students to become academics, but if they decide to go to industry and they become rich, I'll be very happy to take some, money for my research, things like that. All my students know my favorite car brand, just saying, in case that happens. At the same time, if someone comes to me and says, Giuseppe, I'll buy you, and I use the word buy because that's how I would feel. I'll buy you and your students for $1 million and you abandon your career, I would have to think. I don't think I could abandon my academic job right now. I like it too much. I like all the things that come with it. I'm intrigued by industry operation mode and, of course, the money, Eirini, yeah. But that's something interesting. Okay, let's assume that we all are happy with our career choices. And now I will say, for example, for those who are in industry, now that, okay, you've picked, you're in industry, you are in a job that you like, what's your growth projection? What would be your advice? And I know that you're young, right? And you probably still want to get that feedback, but based on your experience, what's the right thing to do? And first we'll do it for industry, then we'll do it for academia, So what can you recommend to the people who might be about to graduate, might be about to get, a job, maybe you're hiring them, right? What should they do to continue growing once they pick their option, once they start a job? What do they need to do to continue growing? And to start either with you or with Lorenzo, one of you, please start talk about industry, then we'll go to Eirini and Jennifer to talk about what's the right way to grow in academia.
Okay, I think I can maybe answer a little bit about this. So, so first of all, let's suppose that the one asking this question has already entered, industry and started his career or her career. So I think the first advice I will give is to talk to more people, not only in your own team, but those working, in adjacent teams who may share some collaborations with you. So when you start your career in industry, you may not have a very clear idea what you are really enjoying, because in industry there are different like positions, different areas to explore. So talking to people and learning what they are doing is I think the best way to find out the various options you may have. So yeah, so talking to people and learning new things is the most important thing I can think of.
Excellent.
And well, then I think apart from that, you should also well, keep your mind open to new challenges. You may need to jump from one place to another.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, right? So one thing is you commit to industry, but that doesn't mean you commit to one company, right? Probably.
Yes. I think in industry you probably have more change in your jobs than in academia. So yeah, I think that's what I can think of now, and maybe Lorenzo can add more.
Please, thank you, Lorenzo. Jump in.
So as I said, let's suppose you made your decision and you find out that the industry is what is for you. One thing I really want to highlight is industry is not all the same, and even within a company, the jobs are not all the same. So an important piece of advice is make sure to land a job in a team that you can make a difference in, okay? And when we talk to PhD students, that very much means be in a team where you can exercise your creativity as an engineer, right? The industry will not just hire you because you're young and you have a nice CV. They hire you for a reason. They hire you because they want you to make a difference for them. So make sure to be in a team where you can make a difference. And that's the number one factor for your growth in a company, 100%, right? And as I said, it's not that simple to realize which team you're landing in, because companies will not expose much of their future plans. So again, internships could give you a little bit of knowledge in that, right? If you intern for a team and you see how they do things, you might get a sense of whether you can make a difference in that team or not, right? And so that's one thing. Make sure, number one, make sure you can make a difference for the company, and that would assure your growth, right? At the same time, make sure you can learn something from the company, right? Try to be in a team where you can learn something. And in saying this, I think I report the words of, I don't remember, I think it was one of the heads of AT&T Research, a place where I interned, that gives in a panel this advice, and it was, or maybe it was a Google Young, I don't remember. Anyways, it was somebody much wiser than I am. And they wanted to highlight, try to join a team where you admire people from. Trying to make sure you work with somebody you can learn from. Don't focus too much on the company, on the business model, right? But if you can work with people you can learn from, that's a very good indication that there might be an opportunity of growth for you.
Excellent. Thank you. Very wise words. Thank you for sharing, both of you. Is it that different if you want to grow in academia? Jennifer, Irini, what do we need to do? You pick your academic life. What did you do to become successful as you are? And what do you recommend people to do? Any of you can start.
So the advice I got when I started was to not do what this person giving me the advice said.
Okay.
So they were an academic that had, it sort of achieved their maximum of full professor. And they said to me that it used to be when they got their PhD that the goal was to generate more academics, and that you basically researched in kind of the area that your advisor was in, and then you just kind of took a piece of the pie and everybody moved along. And they felt that wasn't necessarily the norm, and I certainly sensed that. You know, funding is more and more and more competitive. So to get a piece of the pie, so to speak, I do find that, you know, you have to use your skills and maybe morph them to apply them to new and different challenging areas. I think we're seeing much more interdisciplinary work than ever before. So I think to rise in academia, you know, the traditional path may have been, yes, an advisor graduated another academic, and that academic then went to academia and graduated more academics. I wouldn't say that I find that that's necessarily exactly how it goes these days. In terms of, yes, we have to keep our skills sharp and fresh and new, but I can't echo again enough what the other panelists have said about finding an environment that you're happy in and that you can grow in and you can collaborate in. Establishing collaborations are so important, and, you know, finding a group of people you can work with is certainly a key to success in academia also.
Excellent. Very nice. Actually, yeah, very well said. Irene, anything to add?
Yeah, very few things. So I'll tell you the advice that I got from my advisor, and if I may, an advice that I start creating in my mind the last 6 years in academia. So the advice that I got is not to get anxious with numbers, because our field, I mean, the academic world gets anxious with many numbers of papers, numbers of citations, numbers of dollars, numbers of TPC members, and etc. and etc. And I remember that was an advice back then, and in contrast, what my advisor told me is care about the impact. And I know that it may sound super generic, and, you know, some younger generations, you know, listen to us and I mean, they question themselves like, what is impact? If I may give a very simple answer, I would say impact is something that, you know, it's quite different from what the others are doing. So you can, yes, you can make numbers high by just replicating stuff again and again and making small deltas. Impact, it's not a small delta, it's something bigger. So that's the advice that I got, and I follow it. And the other thing that practically complements what all our three previous panelists said, but I will emphasize that in academia, it's a marathon. I mean, we will be here, I don't know, if you enter at the age of 27, most probably you will be more than 40 years in this field. So I think that what is very important is your colleagues to speak highly about you. So be a team player, be a person that the others want to work with you, and, you know, don't try to exploit opportunistically situations and, you know, whatever is happening, but, you know, think a little bit in the long term, because you will be in this field for sure for 40 years, maybe more. So you don't want to be the person that no one wants to collaborate with you in the future.
Very well said. I mean, among the four of you, there is so much wisdom being shared. I know that it's a Friday evening. I hope people are receptive, because there are very, very smart things being said. At this moment, in the interest of time, do we have questions from anyone in the audience? You know, I forgot to say it before, right? We're happy to answer questions that may come from you who are in the audience. And if not, that's okay. But, you know, just, you know, the Q&A, it's not only for technical papers. It's also for personal thoughts and advices that you want to hear. Well, there seems that there are not many, and we're a little bit over time already. But if there is anything that you wanted to say in 30 seconds, like that last message, call it encouragement, call it, you know, weekend thought, what would you say? Just, I mean, Irene, I see you big on screen, so maybe you can say, what would be your last saying, 30 seconds, to our panel, our colleagues in the audience before we wrap up the panel? I'll ask each one of you 30 seconds of statement. And I should have told you before, now it's when you hate me, but I'm used to people hating me, that's okay.
Okay, so should I go first?
Yes.
So I will reiterate what I said that previously, because I think it's quite important. Be innovative. Don't be anxious about numbers and whatever are those numbers, and be good players. Be the type of person that where your colleague will be at a conference and interact with others will say a good word about you. I think that that's the most important. And think that academia it's a marathon and not from the opportunistic point of view, but you know, at the end it's not only research, it's not only money, it's not only grants, it's not only papers, it's to be a good player and do something innovative that can have an impact to your students.
Excellent, thank you.
Should we answer the questions first?
Sure, okay, let's squeeze these two questions in the meantime. So we received two questions, and I'll ask them. The first one from Akshay. Any suggestions for students who are graduating in the next couple of months? And I guess that this question has also to do with the fact that, as, for example, you mentioned, Liyang, that, you know, maybe these days industry sounds scary, right? We just hear the news, but what would be your suggestions? And then I'll let Lorenzo also jump in.
Well, personally, I think the next couple of months may be worse. So I don't know, maybe think about the options at academia too, just in case you are not able to find your dream job in industry. Yeah, that's my suggestion.
Lorenzo, are you hiring?
I'm not here to represent my company directly, but I think in general you might say that, you know, industry is laying off, but it depends, right? It depends what business within the same company there are departments that are being laid off, and there are other departments that are growing. So I think, kind of going back to what I said before, make sure you're doing something impactful, and if there is a request for your job, the job is going to be out there. Maybe not today. You have to wait maybe 3 or 4 months. So I unfortunately don't know this person, and I don't know exactly what their expertise is, but, you know, we are in a wireless forum, so I guess at large it will be wireless communication. This is a very good business where to be. I don't see the world moving away from wireless in the near future. So I think you're generally in a good spot. So just put your priorities up there, and if the company or the university you want to land in is not hiring right now, it's okay. You can graduate in 4 months instead of 2. It's not going to be a big deal.
Excellent. If anyone wants to add, again, I assume that, you know, graduating in 2 months, it's out of the hiring cycle of a university. So I immediately connected this to industry. But again, it could be that someone wants to go into academia, you know, and that's fine. And, you know, postdocs, you know, there are always positions for good postdocs, I must say. There was a second question, again, for industry. What are your thoughts about a part-time PhD? So you are working and getting a PhD at the same time. Anyone? Yeah.
I do not have experience actually with part-time PhD. I know you can do it. What can I say? So if you're working and doing your PhD, I'd assume you already have a job, right? So I'm not sure what the dynamics are there. Would you go back to, or would you continue the same job after you graduated? In that case, is the PhD just to specialize yourself? I'm not sure exactly what the dynamics are.
Jennifer or Irene, have you had part-time students who were doing the PhD with you and at the same time working?
I have. Unfortunately or fortunately did part of my PhD part-time for financial reasons. And my focus was working to pay my bills. It definitely extended what I was doing, and it sometimes was very diverse, and I found that both good and bad, right? So what I was doing wasn't necessarily towards my PhD. It was nice in terms of a difference, but it also slowed me down. So it was definitely something that if you have to do it, you know, talk to your advisor and mentor and see what can be worked out. But I think it's becoming more common today and for financial reasons in some cases.
Yeah. Good point. Okay. Hope that answers the question. I think it does. Now, again, please keep the questions coming. If not, I'll continue with the wrapping up statements. And again, Jennifer, I have you in front of the screen. So your last 30 seconds piece of advice to the younger people who are listening to us.
So my last bit of advice is, yes, you know, if you're interested in something, definitely pursue it. And I agree that being a good colleague and being a good team player and having impact makes a huge difference in the opportunities that you will be presented with. And there will be days that, you know, that paper gets rejected or things don't go exactly as planned, but they are moments in time. And you want to look at the continuum and keep your eyes sort of focused on the horizon. And the horizon is, you know, you making an impact and it being a career or profession that you really truly enjoy pursuing.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, Liyang, do you want to share your last bit of advice for today?
Yes. So, well, I think life is it's, you know, a process for one to find out you know, who oneself is. So my advice is keep exploring both externally and internally, and don't be afraid of change at any age, but do try to plan it well.
Excellent. Very nicely said. Thank you. And Lorenzo, what would be your last 30-second advice?
So let's say we're talking to first, second, third, fourth year PhD students or someone who's graduating in a couple of years. I'm reporting here the words of my advisor that when we were starting or we were halfway through, it, you know, kept repeating us the goal of PhD is you have to become a world-class expert in something, right? It could be a very narrow field. And it sounds absurd on the first year, I'm gonna assure you that. But eventually you become a world-class expert in something. And that is very important. Like if you graduate and you don't have the sense that you truly know every single bit of this vertical knowledge, and you know, generally maybe you can spend a couple more months, it's not going to hurt, you know. So once you are a world-class expert in something, try to put that knowledge to the service as what is good for you. Okay, try to make a difference, and whether that is through writing grants and exploring new research ideas, or that is through contributing to, you know, the next product in the industry or the next service in the industry. Just try to put that knowledge that you gain in that mental form toward what is good for you, and try to find an environment where you can prosper in.
Excellent. Thank you. Look, I want to use my last 30 seconds to thank the panelists. I think that, let me tell you, this has been one of the most exciting and I think helpful panels I've been having in the last, let me say, a couple of years at the very least. So I think that having everyone giving such inspiring messages on a Friday evening, you know, deserves at the very least a very big round of applause. And if we were in person, now we would go out for drinks. But anyways, we're not in person, and we can still not teleport beer or wine. So it's a matter of time. We can teleport quantum states, but not beer. One thing at a time. With this, let's thank the panelists one more time, and we'll hand this over to Zhenyu Wang, who is already here, hopefully trying to wrap up the event. Thank you, Zhenyu, again, for giving us this opportunity. It has been our pleasure.